You know I had to include a Disney remake on here somewhere. Hello there, I'm Scotty. You're not, and welcome back to Remake-A-Thon II. Well, we are looking at the first of 3 Disney remakes I plan to do for this. I did want to, do the more harmless ones. So we're starting with Pinocchio, which came out in 2022. It's directed by Robert Zemeckis, stars Tom Hanks, which I'm sure you've heard at least 5 times now. He directed him in Castaway and Forrest Gump, and at least 2 others. What was it? Was he in Trespass? No, Trespass was... No. Contact? Directed Contact? Lies Beneath. Castaway. Oh, the Polar Express, of course. What's the 5th one? Pinocchio, Polar Express, Castaway. That's 4, and Forrest Gump. That's 4. What's the other one? I Want to Hold Your Hand. No. Used Cars. No. It's Kurt Russell. Wasn't in Who Framed Roger Rabbit or anything. Forrest Gump, I know. I'm losing my mind. Was he a Beowulf? No. No. The Walk? No. Allied? No, that's Brad Pitt. No, what's the... Am I missing something here? Welcome to Marwen? No. What are the 5 that he did? Let's recount again real quick, okay? Forrest Gump, Polar Express, Castaway, and Pinocchio. That's 4. What is 5? He wasn't into witches, was he? No. The Last Mr. Parrish. No. Oh, it's here. It was here. But this would be the 5th one, not Tom Hanks and Robin Wright. Yeah, this is... Why was Pinocchio considered the 5th one if this is the... Or maybe it should... Maybe... Hold on. I didn't read it in Pinocchio already here, didn't I? He directed Tom Hanks in 5 films. Yeah, it wasn't... Pinocchio wasn't the 5th. It was the 4th. It was here. I remember it here now. It was that weird one where they used AI or the de-aging thing. Alright, so I'm a big fan of the original Pinocchio. Right? And I saw the trailer for this. And I thought, this should be kind of fun to watch with my son, right? And, of course, the first... the first thing you saw in the trailer is that the Blue Fairy is black. And I remember when I came out, I was like, why do they need to do that? It always seems unnecessary to do that. Because that's not what the Black Fairy is supposed to look like. It's not. Or the Black Fairy. See, you got me messed up. The Blue Fairy, excuse me. That's not what the Blue Fairy is supposed to look like. She's supposed to be blonde. You know? And white. Of course. Even though she's called the Blue Fairy. It just... I don't understand some of these decisions sometimes. I don't know. I don't know. And then when back then, I'm like, it's unnecessary, but it's stupid. Now that I know it's Cynthia Erivo, you shouldn't have fucking done it, definitely. Sorry, I can't stand her. Alright? I don't. It's like, I don't know. And like people also said when she was cast as, I'm sorry, that's not her fucking name. The Wicked Witch of the West. Elphaba is not the Wicked Witch of the West's real name. It's Theodora is her real name, I think. I don't know why they... Elphaba sounds like a sickness. Elphaba. I don't know. Well, I don't know what the hell that was supposed to be either. I don't know. But it's like, oh, well, the character is black. But like, oh, but she's green now. You want to cast a real green person? So that was harmless to me. Like, oh, she's green. But I just don't... I don't know. There's something about it that makes me go, no, she always got these long nails, no hair. And if it's like Jada Pinkett where she can't grow hair, that's, you know. But I've seen her with hair too in other pictures. She's had hair before. Maybe she dislikes it. I don't know. She's just kind of creepy with it, you know. And I always said that stupid thing in your nose. And this is not just for her. Stop doing that. This is not attractive. You look like a goddamn bull. Take that thing on your nose. Now, the little stud on the side, that's sexy. I don't know. This looks fucking stupid. You're a bull. Little diamond stud on the side, that's sexy. My mom doesn't think so. She thinks no one should do anything in their nose. You're a goddamn bull. This is sexy. The little thing on the side, no loops. No loops. That looks even stupider. Just a little diamond stud stick out. That's sexy. Okay, ladies? I'm just saying. But, I'm going to do one more. Anyway, the casting in this. So, my history with Pinocchio was this. I grew up with the Disney classic. But that's not my favorite Pinocchio movie. My favorite Pinocchio movie, is Pinocchio and the Emperor of the Night. The Filmation sequel to the original. It's a sequel to the original story. That gets dark, and I like dark. I think it's awesome. The original was also dark, by the way. Cigar smoking, beer, and turning into donkeys. And everything that was dark or a little more grown up about the story, of course, was ripped out and they kiddified it here. Almost to a disappointing level. By the way, Saban, whoever was in charge of doing the edits for Dragon Ball Z when it came out, they changed the beer to root beer. Why the hell did you have to give Master Roshi foaming water? That makes no sense. Anyway, so it follows the basic story with a few changes. And when I first watched it, as well as now, I do feel like that most of the changes, most of them are fine. Only two I don't like. Blue Fairy doesn't need to be black, but it's whatever. That one I can live's passable for me. It's like, it's whatever. She didn't need to be black. It feels like a stunt casting thing by now. You have to have at least one black character. But the actor you cast to play Pinocchio is technically not white. Neither is the one you got to play Lampy. And I feel like there's a big, like, what is this whole thing where everyone has to have dark hair all the time? I feel like redheads and blondes get the boot when it comes to casting lately. They can't even cast blondes to play blonde characters. I'm looking at you, Noah Cantaneo. Ken my ass. And then they cast the non-blonde guy to play Fred in the Scooby-Doo. Though I think they could actually make him blonde, as opposed to Robbie Amell, who I think the story is he refused to dye his hair blonde or wear a wig. Though he did wear it as an in-joke in the second one. But the second one or the first one, whatever. I mean, Freddie the Prince 2 would tell you, don't dye your hair, because the first one, that almost killed his hair, by the way. Why do you think he wears it so short now? Yeah. And then he wore a wig for the second one. Because he wasn't going to do that shit again. But, I don't know, I just feel like there's a lot. Then you may not be able to see it because I look blonde when I have hair. But I am also ginger. There's ginger in my family. So, blondes and gingers, that's me. That's me. My normal hair is actually strawberry blonde. So it has a little red to it, but in the summer it gets really blonde. And my son's the opposite. He is red, a dark brownish. And when he gets sun, it gets more red. He is really ginger. Right? But yeah, so this one's not too bad. Though, of course, everyone likes to shit all over these movies, but this is not that bad, I don't think. I put it up there with Lilo and Stitch. It's a decent enough remake. Even Aladdin, I'll put up there. I didn't like the whole Jasmine wants to be Sultan thing. It doesn't make sense for the story. It doesn't make sense for the time period they're going for. Because women were not in power then. So it makes no sense that she'd become a fucking Sultan at the end of it. Like I said, it follows the same story beats. Though this time I did have a little bit more problems with certain things. We'll get there. We start with Jiminy Cricket talking to himself. Because the older Jiminy Cricket who's been through this story is talking. And the other Jiminy Cricket who can break the fourth wall, I guess. The original, from this time period. The current in the story, Jiminy Cricket is like, well, who's talking to me? Why are they talking to each other? I don't know. And we meet Geppetto, who is played by Tom Hanks, of course. And I think he does a good enough job. I think he does a good enough job in the role. I think it works. And I like the kid who plays Pinocchio too. He kind of brings that same, and they're all kind of doing impersonations of the characters from the original, except for Cynthia Erivo. She's her own thing. Yeah. So you know what happens. He creates a little wooden boy. And then he wishes, when you wish upon a star. He makes a wish upon a star with his heart, they say in this one. And he becomes a living puppet. And the blue fairy says, if you act brave, truthful, and selfless, you can be a real boy. And appoints Jiminy Cricket at the responsibility of being his conscience. You know all this. So, yes. And Geppetto finds him alive. He's a little confused, but I have a real boy. By the way, he doesn't have the Italian accent in this one. I don't think he had it in the original either. But I just somehow imagine that the Geppetto talk like this. I don't know. Maybe he didn't. I don't know. And then, of course, like the original story, Geppetto sends Pinocchio to school. And of course, con artist Honest John and his partner Gideon, the fox and the cat, show up to talk Pinocchio into being a star, being famous. Of course, for some reason, this doesn't make any sense. Remember what I was just saying about female empowerment in an era when that wasn't a thing? Well, now they're talking about being an influencer. And they say, you need a new name. Chris Pine. Yeah. And my son, I remember going, who's that? I'm like, the guy from Wonder Woman, Steve Trevor. Oh. Yeah, Chris Pine. This is the fourth wall break. It doesn't make any sense. They would, but where it gets in there as we get, he starts to go. We get the high, diddly-dee, and actors like for me. They get we get that, and then he's a little late, but he actually Jiminy Cricket shows up and says, "Hey, no, Pinocchio, you gotta go to school." He actually goes to school. I'm like, okay, this would be interesting. What are we gonna do? Not a goddamn thing. Because he gets kicked out of the school by the guy who was like, you are not a real boy. You're going to have to be in the school. And I'm sitting here, as an adult here, going, wouldn't Geppetto have to have made some sort of, call the school, told them, hey, my son, he wanted to be, why has he got to be an Italian? He's going to go to school. Little bit of thing, he's a puppet. Why are you laughing? Is it my Italian accent? I'm sorry. But no, he's a puppet. But no, he didn't call the school. He just says, hey, you're going to go to school? They had phones back then. The little ones, right? They had those back then, right? He uses the phone in the original movie. Right? I don't know. So he gets booted out of school, and then it's like, fuck it, I'll go be a star then. And of course, even after Jiminy had this whole speech to him about you can't trust someone whose name is honest, he's not really honest. And he's like, okay, I'll go be a star now. And he goes off, and of course he ends up in Stromboli's theater as a puppet in his little show. This is where we get the next change to it. For some reason, probably to put more African American characters in the movie, I don't know. This role didn't have to be American either, but it's an original character, so I'm fine with it. It's fine. It could be whatever. Her name is Fabiana, which I feel like if she's Italian, she shouldn't be black, but that it's neither here nor there. It's fine. And again, I'm not just against her being black. Any race but white. And that's racist, I know. But I'm not trying to sound that. And that's more Blue Fairy, not her. I don't care about Fabiana. Blue Fairy should be white because that's what the original character was. This character, I don't care. She could be Asian, Mexican, Eskimo. I don't care. Is that a race? Inuit. Native American. I don't care. But the Blue Fairy, she should be white because that's what the character is supposed to be. Don't change. Add new characters and make them your stunt casting if you want a black character in there. Because honestly, she's harmless. The one thing that does get me about this is they make Pinocchio a fucking idiot, okay? Where he thinks that because he's alive, that means every puppet is alive. So he won't speak to her, he'll only speak to the puppet. Now that's racist. Okay? Humanist? I don't know. But, yeah. So, because he's now at Stromboli's show, you know the thing. Geppetto goes off. Oh, there's actually another change too. There's a seagull named Sophia. For some reason. I don't know why it's here. She's not in the original. She becomes friends with Jiminy Cricket and Pinocchio. And in this version, I do kind of like this. In this version, she's the one. Oh, not yet. We're not there yet. Sorry. She helps convince Pinocchio to go to school, but then he's thrown out because he's a puppet. Yeah. Geppetto, Figaro, and Cleo go out to look for Pinocchio when he doesn't come home for dinner. So Pinocchio has befriended Fabiana and her puppet Sabina. And I'm like, this puppet thing, they don't go as far with it. I'm like, they're basically taking this with Pinocchio and the Emperor Tonight, where Pinocchio falls in love with another puppet, who turns out to be also a human trapped. Well, he was human. I don't know if she's supposed to be human or if she's a puppet that was turned human. I don't know. She ends up human at the end. So I don't know. It says here, Pinocchio puts a good show on for the crowd. Bullshit. They start to, I got no strings to hold me down. But they decide they need to put a joke in here where he falls flat on his face. And then he gets up, he does the song, and it's not as grand scale as the original. Because probably their CGI budget. This was going to Disney Plus. They're not going to. Like, what's the budget of this thing? $150 million. Still a lot of money. That's a lot of money to just throw on Disney Plus, by the way. Whatever. Yeah. So eventually, you know what happens. Stromboli locks him in the bird cage, of him getting out, and for some reason he still gets freed by the coach throwing him off. Well, frees Jiminy in a jar, and Jiminy helps him reach it by growing his nose. Why Fabiana isn't the one that helps? You introduce this new character, and she's not the one that frees him? Because I originally thought, because they didn't have it in the trailer, I don't think, that they weren't going to do the growing nose thing, but they do. Only here, though. He gets the keys, and they get out. But then he's swept up by the coachman, who's driving the coach. And this is Luke Evans, by the way, which you could not tell but by the accent he's putting on. Cockney accent there. He's taking the pleasure island after agreeing. He's like, no, I'm not going to do this. Oh, that's not how it works. It's like, yeah, I picked you up and you got to go. So now he's going to Pleasure Island. And here's where I feel like hardcore fans of this are going to get pissed. They replaced the beer with root beer. Like I said, why couldn't Dragon Ball Z do that back in the 90s? You know what I mean? And there's no cigars. And I feel that kind of takes away when they start to turn into donkeys. And the whole, what am I, a jackass? By the way, they do bleep it by him. What am I, a jackass? Thanks. Thanks. And it's like, because I'm not going to say it, but I do like, that's why I like the original. What am I, a jackass? In a kid's movie. Well, I look like a jackass. And for some reason, I want to point out, this is Pinocchio's first day being alive, by the way. And he says, well, I look like a jackass. And he's like, actually, you do. How would you know what that was? You know? Yeah. And I don't remember if this is in the original, but if they turn into donkeys, they get sold to the salt mines to help with his vapor monsters. Help from his vapor monsters to help. Big old pool hall. You know, Lampy turns into the donkey. Pinocchio starts to turn into one before he escapes the island. And he and Jiminy make their way back to Geppetto's. And this is where I like Sophia's inclusion. She gave him a flyer. She gave Geppetto a flyer to Pleasure Island to let him know that's where Pinocchio was. So now it makes sense. This makes much more sense of what Geppetto was doing and why he was on the ocean. Whereas in the original, you're just like, why was he in the middle of the fucking ocean and get swallowed by this whale? And we'll get to it here. Before he can go off and save Geppetto, he reunites with Fabiana and Sabina, who tell him that Stromboli has been arrested by the Cavalieri, the cops, last night for cruelty against his employees. And they have taken over his puppet show. The girls have. And they have Pinocchio to join me. He's like, I have to go save Geppetto. He's my father. I have to go save him. Let's make his donkey ears and tail disappear. Yes. So, then I do like this where Jiminy Cricket is like, Sophia said she'd fly us both. She's like, hold on now. I said I'd fly you. I can't carry this lunk of wood. And he's like, well, you know what? He's just going to water ski, which wasn't invented yet, but he'll just do it. It's a rope he's on. And then we get Monstro, who in this version is actually some sort of whale monster, not just a regular whale, like in the original story and movie. He's got like tentacles and shit. I don't know. They get swallowed and meet up with Geppetto and Figaro and Cleo. And again, the original was like, well, what a coincidence. But now you know that he was specifically going to Pleasure Island. He's on that path, then you know how it's eaten, and then he's actually following the same path, then it's not really that big of a coincidence that they both get swallowed by the same thing, because they're both going in the same direction. So it works. And of course, you know what happens here. He starts with fire, which causes Monstro to a sneeze, and throwing them both out. But it apparently kills Geppetto. So they do the very cliche thing of having Pinocchio cry a metrical tear, bringing him back to life. And here is where I feel like the hardcore fans are going to get pissed, because I did. Pinocchio doesn't become a real boy. We say it again. Pinocchio doesn't become a real boy. Geppetto tells him, despite him being a puppet, he has proven himself to be a real boy at heart, a true boy at heart. And Pinocchio, and then I do like how they're like, well, let's go home. And he's like, you know how to get there? He's like, just follow this light. Okay, and so they walk off and it freeze frames. And Jiminy Cricket then pops on to say, many stories have been told of old Pinocchio. Some even say that he became a real boy. Whether or not that's true, or not that actually happened, in his heart, Pinocchio is already a real boy. And I went, no, bullshit. You can't do that. Because, let me tell you why you can't pull this shit. Alright? Because you said, beginning of this fucking movie, if he, and I quote, if he acts brave, truthful, and selfless, he can become a real boy. He did all that shit, and he still doesn't become a real fucking boy. And before you point out, they do show him looking like a real boy at the end, but again, that's only supposed to be implied. It's never actually officially told to us that he becomes a real boy. So no, that doesn't count. All in all, though, on a second watch, I enjoyed the first time it was with my son. I did go on a rant about how he should have been a real boy. He kind of laughed at me. It's a movie. It's a movie. Something like Pinocchio that I grew up with. You cannot have Pinocchio stay a puppet. And they know why they did it. Because they thought we might be able to do a sequel. Well, you can't do a sequel if he's not a puppet. Pinocchio and the Emperor of the fucking Night proved you can. He becomes a puppet again. It's very simple. Pardon me. And if they wanted to do something like this, then they should have had an ending. Because I feel like Disney would do this. You have to be accepted for who you are. I think that's what's supposed to be, right? So have him come back and eventually be accepted by his village and go to school. Be accepted by them and the teacher, right? Do that. Don't just do the, oh, well, they say there's stories that he becomes a real boy. But, stories are stories. It's like, right? Because I feel like that's why he didn't become a real boy in this. Because it's like, well, not everything can come true. But then this freaking song is, every wish your heart makes will come true. So what the are we doing here? I should do it like Craig first. So what the are we doing here? I digress. I will give it the middle of the road. Because it's not bad. For the most part, it's the same story. There's just little changes here and there. And like I said, the two changes I don't care for. I don't care for the Blue Fairy change. I don't care for him not becoming a real boy. The rest are fine. It doesn't really matter. Like the Sophia thing I actually like because it makes more sense why they would both be on the same path at the end to be swallowed by Monstro. So that works for me. So what are your thoughts on Pinocchio Remake-A-Thon II? Like, share, subscribe. Thank you for watching. I'm this guy and I'll see you in the next one.